It's the beginning of a new year, and as a photographer, it's time to clean the slate. It's time to go see Father Bob. Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. My last confession was back when I used flash powder. I have one really big sin to confess immediately. I've been a photographer for over 30 years.
Well, my son, you know, we can't all be rocket scientists, or saints, or even Annie Leibovitz. Somebody's got to do the grunt work.
That would be me. It leads to so many sins, though, Father. I've fallen away from the prime. I use zoom lenses now. They're so fast and sleek and sharp.
Well, as long as it's only your lenses you've been zooming, there's forgiveness ahead for you. But tell me this, you haven't been pixel peeping, have you?
Oh, no.
No, I know. I'm a regular reader of your blog, and I know you always keep the big picture in mind.
Well, speaking of readings, Father, do you think it would be good to be consulting the Book of Hobby?
St. David of Baltimore. Truly, his manual method is a good way to judge flash exposure. Sometimes that TTL stuff, you know, it's like shooting craps at a Vegas table. Not that your old father would know what that temptation is like. You know, speaking of illicit temptations, you haven't been massaging things that shouldn't be overly massaged. Now, I'm talking about your files, son. Your files.
No, Father. I believe in getting it right at the moment of exposure, or I guess you could say, the moment it clicks. I believe in the pre-digital book of scriptures.
Very good, son. Very good. What else? What else do you have to confess?
Father, I use my LCD to judge exposure.
Joe, holy histograms. How many times have I told you that what you see on your LCD is not necessarily what you get? It's the devil's work, you know. It all looks good on the back of the camera, but then when you get those files back in aperture, that's when you have to answer to St. Ansel of the Nine Zones.
Oh, and he's a tough character.
That he is.
More sins, Father, almost too many to count. I no longer use a handheld exposure meter.
Joe, we haven't called it a handheld exposure meter since Vatican II. It's a histogram. It's on the back of your camera. If you have your camera in your hands, you've got a handheld meter. Now, I want you to say the prayer of proper pixel placement with me one more time so you remember. Darks on the left, lights on the right, grays in the middle, and Lord help us preserve the holy highlights. Amen. Don't you feel better, lad?
Oh, I do, Father.
What else do you have to confess to your old Father Bob?
Well, again, so many things. I'm guilty of overlighting. You put one flash out there, and then you put another, and then you put like a dozen out there. Father, all that flash, it feels so good.
Oh, you're going to have to calm down, Joe. You're going to have to calm down. I'll tell you this, take comfort in this. As long as I've known you, you've never committed that cardinal sin of overlighting multiple shadows.
Yea, though I walk through the valley of multiple shadows, I shall fear no flash, Father.
That's good. What else, son?
Well, Father, still so many sins to confess. So many temptations. I've even looked at using HDR lately.
HDR? And have your pictures come out looking like bad pictures of a Harry Potter movie set?
No.
Well, then you're doing it right. You're using it in moderation. HDR, I always say, is like the communion wine. A little goes a long way.
Just like sharpening.
That's right. Everything in moderation. Everything in moderation. Now, Joe, what's this I've been hearing about you taking pictures of people in their birthday suits?
Well, that's true, Father, but I never thought it was a sin to celebrate the human form.
Well, your old Father Bob's going to have to be the judge of that. I'm going to be taking a close look at those pictures later, and I'll decide what kind of penance to mete out to you.
What kind of penance are you going to give me, Father?
I think, Joe, I'm going to condemn you to being a photographer for the rest of your life.
Well, Father, you've made me feel so much better. You should be a saint. I mean, they should canonize you.
Ah, Joe, how can you say that? I'm going to have to rethink your penance. That's blasphemy. Now, come on, let's have a moment of silence together. Before we start, I wanted to ask you one question. What is the difference between channels and groups anyway?
Oh, Father,